All we need is the political will, and that's going to happen. Let me tell you just about, well, let me tell you this. We've done this before in our country, okay? We built an ARPANET grid in America in 1979 that connected every American home to the internet. And a year later, there were fewer than 500 computer networks in America. And IBM that year said that PCs, personal computers, were a dead-end technology. Okay, well now, most Americans have, or, I'd say the majority of Americans have a PC, have access to one. And what happened to the cost of information, of bits and bytes? It plummeted to almost zero. And that's exactly what will happen to electrons as soon as we build a national grid for energy in this country. In 1996, we built a national unified grid for telecommunications. Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act, and he told all the baby bells, you can no longer restrict access to your lines. You've got to allow anybody who wants to sell their products on your lines. We have to be national unified. They have to be able to reach anybody else on the continent. And the lowest cost provider will prevail in the marketplace. And what happened? That 1996 bill spawned a telecommunications revolution in this country, and all these little gadgets that we now carry, the iPhones, etc., are the offspring of that revolution. And what happened to the cost of telecommunications? Well, before I left New York last week to come out of here, I saw an ad on TV, which you can see all the time, by a company called Vonage that promised to provide unlimited, long-distance, overseas to Europe, or anywhere in the world, and local calls, unlimited, for $24. Well, that's practically free. A month ago, I spent $64 for a single phone call to Europe when I was in Miami. That's the old system. The future is $24 for unlimited phone service anywhere in the world. And that comes from constructing this unified grid, and that's exactly what's going to happen to electrons in this country as soon as we build a national unified grid for energy. Now, I said I serve on the board of this big green tech firm, venture capital firm called Vantage Point. They have about 30 portfolio companies, and I'm on the board of a lot of those. One of those I'm on the board of is a company called BrightSource, and BrightSource builds solar thermal plants. A solar thermal plant is not like photovoltaics, which we normally think of as solar. It's a mirror farm in the desert. So they suspend a turbine, and it's the same turbine you'd see in a gas plant or a coal plant or a nuke plant. They suspend it on top of a scaffolding in the middle of the desert. Then they surround it by concentric rings of mirrors, these giant mirrors, that are manipulated by computers to always reflect the sunlight onto that turbine. And 20 minutes after the sun rises in the morning, that turbine is at 750 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's a very good way of providing energy. And particularly, incidentally, when it's coupled with natural gas, it burns at night. And natural gas, to me, is part of the new energy economy. This state has huge amounts of it. And in Colorado, one of the things they've done, which is in the same situation as Utah, is they're mandating right now with the new law that all the coal plants switch to natural gas. In the last 2 years, we've discovered 1,000 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in this country, and some of it has to be fracked out of formations, and some of the ways they've done that in the past and are doing it today are very irresponsible and reckless and dangerous. But you can do it in ways that are safe. With an investment from the gas industry, they need to start doing that. But we have huge amounts of natural gas, and it's the perfect partner because it's only 40% of the carbon. There's none of the mercury, none of the acid rain, none of the ozone and particulates. And this state has a lot of it. This state has all the things you need for to prosper and lead the world in the new energy economy. But anyway, this solar thermal plant, we have contracts now that we're building these plants near the Mojave Desert. We have contracts with Southern California Edison and Pacific Gas and Electric to build what essentially is one of the biggest power plants ever built. 2.7 gigawatts of natural gas. So we'll have it built within 2 years, which is a fraction of the time that it takes to build a nuke plant or a coal plant. And to build we're building it essentially, the cost of building a solar thermal plant is about $3 billion a gigawatt. The same as building a coal plant, about $3 billion a gigawatt. And it's about, to build a nuke plant today is about $12 to $15 billion a gigawatt, and it takes 15 years to do it. So it's like insane to do it. Once you build our plant, it's free energy forever. So, because the photons are hitting the Earth every day for free, all you have to do is build the infrastructure to pick them up and put them in the line, and it's free energy forever. Once you build a coal plant for that same $3 billion, now you've got to go to the Appalachians and cut down the mountain, the Appalachian Mountains, ship them across the country in rail yards, warp all the rails, burn the coal, poison every lake in America, kill 60,000 people a year, acidify all the lakes up in Canada, in the Adirondacks and the Northeast and around the country. Once you build a oil plant for the same $3 billion a gigawatt, now you've got to go to Saudi Arabia, punch holes in the ground, bring the oil up, refine it expensively, genuflect to the sheiks who despise democracy, who are hated by their own people, and who we should have nothing to do with, get into periodic wars that cost us $4.3 trillion, send the stuff all across the Atlantic with military escorts, spill it all over the Gulf and Maldives and everywhere else, and you burn it and poison everybody in our country. And that's for the same $3 billion.